Hello, Freefrommers, and welcome to Series 2, Episode 2 of the Allergy and Freefrom Show chat with me, Ben Corbett. We're delighted to be back with another episode, another 2 interviews, and another cook-along. On today's show, we welcome Georgia Austin Greenall, aka Gluten Free Georgia, Ruth Holroyd from What Allergy, and we round things off with the return of Copperconfetti, Sarah Pincus, cooking for us live. Also, Sarah's giving away some of her herbfetti. You can see a link in the comments to enter her competition. But let's get straight into it and invite into the virtual studio our first guest, Gluten Free Georgia. Hey.
Hello.
How you doing, Georgia?
How are you? I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. I'm glad that it's a bit cooler today for it.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's nice to have a little bit of a break. So if for anyone that doesn't know your work, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So I am, like you said, Georgia Austin Greenall. I go by the alias the GFG, which is a play on the BFG, obviously, for Gluten Free Georgia. I am a gluten-free and vegetarian food blogger. I post about eating gluten-free in the UK, in London specifically, and all around the world. I've got lots of recipes and guides to different cities. Yeah, a lot of people follow me for my cats as well. They're very cute. I can't blame them. But yeah, so that's me.
Amazing. I had one of my cats actually broke into the chat when I was doing the Just Be Show chat in the first series, and I was interviewing someone and she just jumped up on the desk and started walking along in front. It was pretty good. It was the best part of that episode, if I say so myself.
Yeah, I can't promise mine won't do the same.
I hope so. So the main 2 areas of your blog seem to be sort of recommendations and travel and stuff like that, and recipes. Which part did you sort of do first, and which do you prefer doing?
So first probably came recipes, because I actually started my blog when I was living in the Netherlands just for 6 months, and I was finding it really hard to eat out, and I thought, you know, I wonder if anyone on social media is posting about meal ideas, the types of things you can actually eat when you've got allergies. So that's how I started it. But then when I moved to London, it's just got such an amazing gluten-free scene that it definitely came a bit more about eating out recommendations. And then again, lockdown flipped that back on its head, and I've been doing loads of baking, loads of new recipes, and I think that is probably what I prefer. I think as a blogger who writes recipes, there's nothing better than seeing someone make one of your recipes and saying, oh, no one could tell it was gluten-free. So yeah, that's what I'm always aiming for. That's
so cool, isn't it? And I think like that's the big thing, isn't it, that people don't want to compromise on taste 100%. Or enjoyment. That's like what we're all striving for when we're eating gluten-free, I think.
Yeah, and there's no reason why you should have to compromise. There's so many amazing substitutes out there now. If it doesn't taste like it could have gluten in it, then it's not quite right.
I often ask people that do a lot of recipes, do you see it as more of an art or a science, or a mixture of both when you're like figuring out and fine-tuning a new recipe?
I think it is a mixture of both. I think actually getting the recipe right is probably more science. You want to get the quantities right and that kind of thing. But then, you know, if it doesn't look nice, no one wants to eat it. So that's probably where the art side of it comes in.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. But I'm moving back over to your recommendations part. I wanted to ask you, because I've seen like loads of stuff on London and stuff that you do, but you also sort of go around the world and look at different places. So what's your favorite city to eat out in other than London, and why?
I mean, I should probably caveat by saying that London is my favorite city to eat out in. I've never been anywhere that quite topped it, but I would probably have to say Paris. And the reason for that is, I mean, anyone who's gluten-free will tell you finding a good gluten-free pastry, a croissant, a patisserie is difficult, and they have that in Paris. I mean, France is notoriously and historically quite difficult for eating gluten-free, particularly if you're celiac. But yeah, Paris is great. Yeah, you've got my website up there. I've got a Paris gluten-free guide. There's so much good stuff in Paris. Honestly, you can't be eating gluten-free croissant in Paris.
I've heard that gluten-free croissant is sort of like the holy grail of eating free from. it's really difficult
Yeah.
to do and quite difficult to find.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, some supermarkets have brought them out recently with sort of mixed success. But yeah, if you want a proper croissant, then it's worth getting the Eurostar to Paris. I would recommend it. Maybe not right now, since they've just had their quarantine put back in, but in the future.
I think it's all going to go in phases, isn't it? We'll be able to do something for a little while and then we'll have to do something else. It's hard to plan too far into the future, isn't it? And you're sort of just doing what you can do at that exact moment.
Yeah, and that heart-shaped pizza that you got there, that was amazing.
Mm-hmm. And what about a little further afield? I saw like Reykjavik on there and stuff like that. How does Free From food, how is it different when you go a little further afield?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does get trickier, but I am definitely of the view that you shouldn't let your allergies stop you from traveling the world. I spent 2 months a couple of years ago traveling Southeast Asia. So I've got a Thailand guide. I've been to Thailand a few times since I've been gluten-free, Cambodia, Vietnam. And, you know, it is more difficult, but it's just a case of being prepared, you know, if you're going to Asia, take your own gluten-free soy sauce with you, and then that'll cover you for loads of places. Yeah, some places are trickier than others. Italy is apparently amazing for gluten-free, a bit closer to home, but if you're sort of new to being gluten-free or a newly diagnosed celiac and want to go somewhere safe, then Italy is a great shout as well.
Do you find that you do quite a lot of research before you travel somewhere, or is it more like when you're taking things with you? How do you usually prepare?
Yeah, I do a lot of research. I tend to book self-catered accommodation and take my own breakfast, just because I suffer from hunger, and no one who goes on holiday with me deserves to see my wrath if I've been walking around trying to find some gluten-free breakfast to eat for 3 hours. So I think it's always worth taking some breakfast food along with you. But other than that, I definitely just think if you just Google nowadays, like gluten-free Paris, there's so many amazing bloggers out there that literally just do it because we all love eating. You know, it's not my job. So people put the time and effort into researching what's safe to eat, and there's just great resources out there now. But it is definitely about being prepared. The last thing you want is to be wandering around trying to find something safe to eat.
And I guess your blog is a good place for other people to start their research before they're going somewhere, if you've been to one of the destinations they're planning on going to.
I would hope so. I like to think so. But yeah.
Okay, and you were saying that you've done a lot more sort of baking and stuff, and I think we've all had quite a lot of time for reflection and experimentation over the last 5 months or so. So have you discovered any new recipes or ingredients that you hadn't used before?
I have, yeah, loads. So I don't know if you've seen a few sort of companies have been posting their, you know, secret recipes that they'd kept secret before lockdown. So Pret is one of them. They've released their cookie recipe and their vegan recipe, and they've been so easy to make gluten-free. I've made both of those just by swapping the flour. Dishoom, the Indian chain who make the most amazing gluten-free food, they've released a Ruby Murray curry recipe that I just did that with veggie chicken. And then in terms of my own bakes, I've made a marble cake. I hadn't done that before. Some mini pavlovas. I think actually the most exciting sort of simple new ingredient that I've been using is buckwheat flour. So buckwheat flour is gluten-free, which is always a bit misleading because it's got the word wheat in it, but it is. And I've actually discovered that you can make amazing gluten-free wraps with literally just buckwheat flour and water, 2 parts buckwheat flour to 1 part water, and that's it. And yeah, that's revolutionized my lunchtime.
And I guess that was during the great flour shortage of spring 2020 that we all went through.
Yeah, an awful time for all gluten-free bakers.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult for even people that are not gluten-free to get normal flour, I think. It was just for some reason, that was the thing that no one could get back in sort of April, May sort of time. So I guess the other thing that's relevant to right now, they've now started the Eat Out to Help Out thing. Have you taken advantage of that anywhere yet?
I have. So I've kind of been getting my fix of the sort of safe chain restaurants that I'd missed. So I've been to Pizza Express and I've been to my local branch of the Lounges. They're great for celiac. So those two. I've definitely got my sights set on a lot more eating out to help out, of course.
Yeah, obviously.
That's my main reason. So yeah, I think a trip to Honest Burgers is definitely on my list.
Yeah, awesome. Well, have you got anything exciting coming up, and where can people find more of your work?
So I am off on holiday soon to Norfolk, and I'm going to do lots of hunting down gluten-free places to eat there, so I can get a guide up for people that are still more focused on UK holidays. So that's
Cool.
my next big thing. I'm also going to be moving house in the not too distant future, so more space in my kitchen to do more baking. And people can find me at the GFG on Instagram and on Facebook.
Perfect. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming by. I'll be interested to hear. No worries. I'll be interested to hear about Norfolk, because that's my neck of the woods originally.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting for me to know when I go back where the good places are to go and eat free from.
Great.
No worries. Cheers for sticking around. See you later.
Nice to speak to you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so thanks a lot to Georgia. We're going to move right on now and invite into the studio Ruth Holroyd from What Allergy.
Hello. Thanks for having
Ruth,
me.
how's it? No worries. Thanks for coming on. I'm sorry that it's taken so long.
That's okay.
No worries. So, so for people that don't really know much about what you do you want to tell us a little bit about your work and what people know you for?
Yes, I guess people know me mostly as a blogger. I've been blogging for about 11 years now on whatallergy.com, which is all about allergies, eczema, asthma, and most recently topical steroid withdrawal, which is something I've been doing for about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And I've just written a book as well, so new author.
Okay, awesome. And so you've been blogging for quite a long time, 11 years. How have you seen sort of the landscape of allergies and I guess blogging in general change in that time?
Well, I guess allergies are getting more and more prevalent, more and more common. I was going to say popular, but they're not really something we want. And nobody really knows why that is. There's lots of theories. As opposed to the blogging arena, there are more bloggers, but not loads. So I think it's an interesting area to be in. It's still an area where you can find a niche, and there's definitely a lot of demand out there from people who've been newly diagnosed or have had allergies for ages, looking for support and help and guidance and tips. So whilst there are new bloggers, it's still quite a small niche area, I
And I'd agree. Also, I think I obviously interview a lot of bloggers. We've always got at least one on the chat show, and you can always, when I'm doing my research before I interview them, you can always seem to like focus in on one particular thing that person does that's a little bit specific to them or unique, or just like a slight sway in a certain direction that makes it interesting to chat to them.
Everyone's got their little niche. There's like parent bloggers and obviously cooking bloggers and recipe bloggers. They're the ones that I think they're amazing. I'm so bad in the kitchen. So I just look at that heart-shaped pizza and I'm like, oh. I would love to be able to make like Georgia.
Well, there you go. So it's an exciting time for you, obviously, because you've just released a book. Could you tell us a little bit about the book and how it came about?
Yeah, so I always wanted to be an author, and it's funny, I was looking back at my old diaries over lockdown because I'm in this box with all of my old diaries for when I was like 11 years old, which is hilarious. And I wanted to be a writer in there, and I never thought I'd be. So to now have just published my first book is amazing, and I was really fortunate to be asked to write it by the publishers. So I guess they wanted someone to write it, and I had a lot of experience. And it's called The Reluctant Allergy Expert: How to Kill the Fear That Allergies Could Kill You. And I had some really hard experiences over the last couple of years where I was unconscious, really, really ill. So my anaphylactic reactions have got worse and worse and worse as I've got older, which is quite scary. And when you're unconscious, when you don't actually know what happened to you in hospital, that's really difficult to get your head around. And it's hard when you're feeling like you've got no trust left for people, because this always happened when I was eating out, and I've gone through all the little checks and asking them and checking what's safe, and then something's gone wrong for whatever reason, and I've eaten my allergen, and both times it was dairy. So
Right.
it was not like therapy, actually. Writing the book was like I had a lot of therapy anyway, because I was really struggling with my mental health and anxiety and panic attacks. Writing the book was like adding on to that. It was so therapeutic. I was sitting there weeping, writing some parts of it. So I really enjoyed writing it as well.
That's cool. And I guess, like, the hope would be that some of the experience that you had in writing it, other people could, have some of that transferred experience by reading it.
Yeah, I hope it will help people, because when I was diagnosed with allergies, I was probably 19 when I realized that they were really bad. I always knew that I couldn't eat peanuts, so we always knew I had allergies. But back then, I'm 47, the doctors would just say, yeah, she's got an allergy. They knew it was an allergy, but the only advice then is just don't eat them. So that's what we did. But you make mistakes. And I'm almost grateful I didn't know anything, because I grew up not knowing that potentially I could have an anaphylactic reaction. And my first really bad one was when I was 19. And I didn't know anything. There was no Google then. When I was researching the book, I realized that Google didn't exist back then.
Yeah, of
I couldn't
course.
even go on the internet and look things up. And the anaphylaxis campaign was just created about that time, because the guy that founded it, his daughter died of an anaphylactic reaction, and I was 19 and she was a bit younger than me. And that was when I thought, is that what I've got? It's scary. So I think I just want to help people. I wish I'd had something like this, because I had nothing, and I had doctors telling me, no, you're not. That's not nuts doing that. Oh, you can't be allergic to two things. I can remember being told that. I remember going and saying, I think dairy is doing it too. I think I'm having anaphylaxis to dairy. And they were like, no, you've got an allergy. You can't have two.
Right, that's crazy.
I actually have about 5, so I'm really greedy now.
which seems, working in the arena that I do seems quite common. So to think that people didn't believe that could be the case, it seems crazy, doesn't it?
Just was quite rare back then. Now it's a lot more common. I was the only person that had allergies when I was growing up.
But it's nice that I think that once you get involved in the community, it is a really tight knit and supportive community, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the experience that you're describing about feeling alone and like you're the only one, it's really nice. That I think now no one really needs to feel like that.
No, and that's one of the best things about the community online, is that it is really supportive, and everybody is just so helpful and willing to give their time as well to help people with newly diagnosed themselves, or especially with kids. I think that must be really hard, having children with allergies, or you just wouldn't want to let them out of your sight, I can imagine.
Yeah. So if you're a young person out there who's at the beginning of their journey, reach out to the people that come on the show each week, because they're all so friendly and they'll be really helpful and have lots of advice. So make sure you do that. Everyone's totally up for being supportive for each other. So where can people find your book? Where can people get it from?
It's on Amazon, and it's in Kindle and paperback. And I'm hoping to sell some signed copies on my blog, but I haven't got that worked out yet. So if anyone's interested in that, get in touch with me at the moment.
And you mentioned the anaphylaxis campaign. You're quite involved with certain charities and organisations. What sort of role do you have, and what do you hope to sort of achieve through your work with these organisations?
I guess I don't have an official role with them. I'm not an ambassador or anything, but I'm really supportive of what they do, because they help me a lot, especially when I've had those questions. I phoned them up, and the helpline was really helpful, and they did help me find some therapy at the time. So they're just they're great, and there isn't anything else out there. You kind of get a diagnosis and then you're sent home to kind of cope with it, and even doctors don't recommend these charities very often. So they fill that big gap. So there's the charities, and then there's the bloggers and the online community, because you kind of get given adrenaline and sent home to deal with it. And it can be just mind blowing, like how to shop, how to eat out, how to go on holiday, what to do at school, at work, at parties. It's like a minefield of potential. catastrophes, and it can be really scary for people. So. Yeah.
And it's I guess it's quite similar to when we're talking about the bloggers, is working with all the different charities that we work with and I speak to sort of weekly. You start to see which ones help in different ways. Do you know what I mean? So that's really, really handy to do your research into all the different organizations and find out in what ways they can be supportive, I think.
There's so many good ones. There's the Anaphylaxis Campaign, Allergy UK. There's Natasha's foundation as well, which is doing lots of research to help find the answers that we need and to find a cure eventually. And there's loads of other charities. There's another one that I'm trying to think of, the Sadie Bristow Foundation. So there's lots of charities out there to get involved with that all do kind of different things, as you say. So just do research and get out there. Yeah.
I can see we've got Nat in the comments, and since Natalie essentially lives inside my head, she's second guessed my next question. Thanks, Nat. That's perfect. So she said, but by the looks of it, she said, and I'll ask her question instead of mine. So she said, what would you recommend as a top tip for those that are newly diagnosed, and maybe something to help with people's anxieties and stuff like that?
One top tip. I don't think I can do one. I might have to do a few. But I was thinking about this before we came on, because I get asked this a lot. What's your top tip? First of all, I would say you need to find out as much as you can about your allergy as possible. So learn what you can and make sure it's difficult, but using sources that you trust, that are actual real sources, which can be a bit of a challenge. But then ask for help. So don't be scared of asking, and don't be scared of talking about it. I used to always sit back and I didn't really want people to know, but actually it's a big part of me. So if allergens are going to be there, I just talk about it, ask for help, and you kind of have to accept it and embrace it. And that's really hard, but that's been one of the things that I've been working on. Like, it is part of me, and although I don't want it to be, it is. I have to accept that and kind of own it. And whilst I have to carry adrenaline and I have to check everything all the time, I can live my life in a way that's adventurous and exciting. And I just have to be mindful that I'm always on the alert. But I just want people to enjoy their lives and not feel like they're missing out either. And when you're first diagnosed, that is sometimes not possible. You just can't imagine ever being able to do that, but you can. And it's just about learning how to come to terms with it, what you're living with, because lots of people have things that they have to kind of learn to deal with. So accept what you can't change. You can't change that you have an allergy, and then work on the things you can change, like people's awareness and their judgments, and be a little ambassadors for each other.
That's really good advice. Thanks, Ruth. And just to finish off, where can people find you, not literally but virtually, to read a little bit more about what you do?
They can find me on my blog, which is whatallergy.com, and I am What Allergy on Facebook and Instagram. I am on Twitter, but I'm not very active on there. And sign up to my newsletter. If you sign up at the moment, I've got loads of really exciting free resources on my blog for new people who sign up. And if you already signed up, I'm just about to email you to tell you where to find them. So they're hidden, they're secret, and they're only for my subscribers. So
perfect. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming on, Ruth. It's really great to get your insight, and I think there's so much that we can still talk about. So please come back sometime. It'd be good to have you come back on.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Okay, cheers, Ruth. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so thank you to Ruth, and now we're going to move on to our last item, which is going to be our cook-along. So I'll invite into the virtual studio Sarah Pincus, or Copperconfetti.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks so much for coming back. What are you going to be cooking for us today?
Today, I'm going to be making gluten-free cheesy herb fetty muffins.
Okay, awesome. Right. I am going to quickly, somehow, with the speed of a mongoose, get the ingredients up on screen so you can have a quick talk through them, and then I'll leave you to get started.
Perfect. Sounds good. Yes, so it's fairly straightforward. There's not a huge amount of ingredients, One of the key ingredients is my new product, which is a seasoning mix, but I'll talk a wee bit about that while I'm doing the recipe. So yeah, if you want to grab these things quickly and cook along, feel free, or take a wee note. And it is all on my blog as well, so I'll leave a wee link to that in the comments below in case you miss anything.
No worries. I'll pop those ingredients back up at the end if anyone's at home freaking out right now because they haven't managed to get them written down. Okay, I'm going to hand over to you, Sarah.
Okay. Right, so we'll get started. So there's not a huge amount to this recipe. I make it gluten-free. You can adapt it to be dairy-free as well. And it is low FODMAP, so it suits quite a lot of different people. So we'll just get started. So first of all, you want 125 grams of gluten-free self-raising flour. We'll just pop that in our bowl. And then we want about 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. So this recipe that I'm doing, it makes 6 muffins. The recipe on my blog is actually for 12, but I've just halved it because we've got quite a lot of muffins to get through this weekend. So I thought that'll do us. But you can double up and make 12. And then we want about 1 teaspoon of paprika. I'm a big fan of paprika, so I do tend to put quite a lot in. And then the secret ingredient, bit of promo here, is the herb fetty. So we want about 1.5 teaspoons I normally put in for about 6 muffins. And I'll talk about that in a wee second. And then to that, you want to give that a quick mix together, just to make sure it's all combined. And then we want to add about 25 grams of butter. So you can use regular butter or you can use dairy-free butter. And it should be cold because we basically want to now rub this through the flour mixture and create kind of like breadcrumbs. So this is my favourite part because it does get a bit messy. So make sure your hands are clean because there's nothing worse than getting this all up in your hands. So you just want to kind of rub the butter through the flour until it all starts to come together. So while I'm doing this, I can say a little bit about herb fetty. So herb fetties, it was born about 2 weeks ago. It's been on the market. It's a seasoning mix. So it's an all-rounder kind of seasoning salt. It's herb-based. It's gluten-free, vegan, low FODMAP, free from the top 14 allergens. It can basically be used in anything. It's my kind of, I basically came up with it because I find that with the different intolerances and things that I have, I would maybe struggle coming up with some interesting meals, or if there were days where I didn't really feel like cooking, I'd struggle to find something that was interesting enough, and I'd get a bit bored of kind of plain, safe meals. So that was basically how I came up with it. And it's a seasoning mix that you can just add on top of things. You can use it as like a kind of a rub for chicken or different meats or fish. You can add it to veg. You can use it in salad dressing, which is one of my favorites. It's basically just a kind of a top 14 allergen free way of livening up some food. So, and it works really, really well in these muffins. So I've sat and rubbed at that quite a lot. So you can see it's almost kind of like a breadcrumb consistency. So that's about perfect. It's quite good fun to get a bit messy in the kitchen as well. So that'll do for that. My hands a quick wipe. And then to that, we now want to add our wet ingredients. So we've got 125 millilitres of milk. Again, you can use dairy-free milk if you want. And we've got about 1/2 tablespoon of natural yogurt. Again, you can use dairy-free or lacto-free for low FODMAP. Give that a bit of a mix. And you can see it's a gorgeous kind of orangey colour from the paprika. It's all mixed through like that. And now we want to add the cheese. I'll just pop that to the side. And you want to grate about 60 grams of cheddar. And again, cheddar is low FODMAP, so that works well for that. Or you can use a dairy-free vegan cheddar if that suits. And then you want 60 grams for in the muffin mix. And then if you grate a little bit more that we can pop on the top of the muffins, because then you get that kind of nice melted cheese look on top and just makes them extra cheesy. And to me, you can't really have enough cheese and stuff. Right, so that's all of that. Got, and then we'll just pop all of that into our mix. And while I'm here, I'll just grate another little bit for on the top. And again, we make this recipe quite a lot now. We kind of have them, they're similar to sort of savoury scones, or we quite like having them with a bowl of soup that you can kind of dunk in, or if you're going on a picnic, if this nice weather keeps up, you can take them on a picnic. I like them just heated up, just quite quickly in the microwave with a little bit of butter on top. That's probably my favourite way to have them. So we'll keep that to the side for putting on top when they're cooked. And now we just want to mix the cheese through your mixture. So it's a bit of a strange consistency, but that is the way you want it, because obviously once it's cooking, the cheese will melt through it and kind of hold it all together. And once that is all mixed in, we now want to get our muffin tin, and we just want to grease 6 of these. Obviously you would grease more if you've made more of the recipe. And this is a fun part. I always think when I'm evening out or dishing something out into muffin tins, I can never ever get it even. I always end up with some that are much bigger than others, some that are much smaller, but you can kind of spin them about to get fairly even ones. There we go. So that's 6 of them greased now. And then we'll just divvy up the mix between the 6 cases. And it does look like a bit of a strange kind of mixture. It's quite thick, but it does have a really nice consistency when it's baked. There we go. And then once you've dished all of this up, so you want to have preheated your oven to 180 degrees when you start. And then these will go in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. So if you just keep an eye on them and don't let them go too brown, because obviously if you've got the cheese on top, it might start to go a wee bit kind of brown, but 20 to 25 minutes. They're not looking too bad. I think that's the most even I've ever got, the 6. So that's a win. There we go. And then just a little sprinkle of cheese on each one. There you go. So that's how it should look before it goes in the oven. Bit strange looking, but trust me, they will be delicious. And I've got a bit of a Blue Peter moment here, so that you didn't have to wait the 25 minutes until they're ready. That's them. That's a batch I made earlier. So that's them out of the oven now. You can see that the cheese has gone all nice and brown on the top. I'll kind of break one open so you can see the inside of it. And you can just see, obviously it's nicer if it's just fresh out of the oven. You can see all the cheese melted. But that's the consistency. You can see the herbs through it. And that is just ideal dunked in some soup or on a wee picnic or something. And that's my gluten-free, cheesy herb-fetty muffins.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Now let me just pop the ingredients back up just so people can get those written down, because I'm sure people will want to be trying this at the weekend.
It's such a quick and easy recipe, and it's fairly straightforward ingredients that you will tend to have in the house. And obviously herb-fetty if you come and buy it from the shop or if you win it. I've got a couple of giveaways in the comments, so if you have a look down there, you can be in for a chance of winning some. But yeah, they're really, really simple, really straightforward. I quite like just doing a batch of them, and then you've got them ready to go. And if you get peckish, you can grab one. And I'm very much a savoury person, so it's a savoury snack that I'm looking for rather than something sweet. So this is ideal for me.
Excellent. And people can find it on your website,
it's
and
all
your
on
blog
there. It's on
to buy it.
copperconfetti.com. I'll leave the link in the comments as well, so you can find it easily. And I'll put the recipe in there as well, and that'll be for 12 muffins. So that should keep you going for a wee while.
That's perfect.
No
Right.
worries.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Right. I'm going to get everyone back on so we can all do, since we had a Blue Peter moment, I want us all to be able to wave at the same time. Let's get Georgia on. There she is. Okay, let me get the brand out of the way. You'll have to lean to the side. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on. Thank you to Georgia, to Ruth, and to Sarah. Please all come back, because there's so much more that I could chat to you guys about. And it's been just a quick one with everyone today. So yeah, please come back. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries. And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll be back on the 18th of September with 2 more interviews and another cook along. We'll be announcing who the next guests are in the next week or so. So until then, stay safe everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.